Good afternoon, students. We will be starting the second session on sales forecasting technique. So, till now we have studied what are the different type of forecasting, what is the importance of demand planning, different methods which are there used for sales forecasting, and the qualitative methods we have understood in the previous lecture. So, in this particular lecture, we will be discussing the objective methods. So, as you know, these are the two broad classification of the forecasting method. First one is subjective methods, under which the sales forecast composite survey, jury of executive opinion, and Delphi methods. So, all these methods we have discussed in the previous class. In this presentation, we will be discussing what are the causal methods and time series methods. So, this is a demand versus time graph, which shows that variations are random. The variation of the demand with respect to time are random. But at the same time, they are showing a trend of increasing as the time is passing by, there is an increase in the demand. You see here the demand is so much, then here the demand is so much, here the demand is so much, and in between there is a seasonal variation. So this is a type of trend the time series methods will show. Okay. So the first method in this category is the moving average method. It is also called simple moving average method, and it supplies the forecast of the future value which is based on the recent past history. That means we will be having the data for last few months, and based on the recent past, we will be predicting or we will be forecasting the data for the future demand. Okay. So the latest and consecutive values, which are the observation of actual events, such as it may be a daily data, it may be a weekly data, it may be a monthly data, or it may be a yearly data based of the demand, which are used in making a forecast for future. These data are recorded and must be updated to maintain the most recent N values. So N is the number of periods. Suppose we want to have a forecast for next 2 months, and we have the data for last 10 months. So N will be taking from the recent value. Okay. When passing of the each time period, the most recent value is stored and the value of the earliest period is dropped off. Suppose you take a data for the sale of the particular type of the mobile, because it is a hot selling product. So if you take the data of previous year in the same month, the trend will have been different. But if you see the data 2 months back right from now, the trend will be more recent and it will be changed. Okay. So when passing of each time period, the most recent value is stored and the value of the earlier period is dropped off. For example, if you want a forecast demand for the month of April, so using N is equal to 3, that means for last 3 months data we will be using. Then the demand for the last 3 months, that is January, February, March. If you go back from April, so these are the 3 months, January, February, March. So the forecast will be for the month of April will be calculated like this by this method. So we'll write forecast for the month of April. So we will take the January demand, we will take the February demand, and we'll take the demand for the month of March. And this will add and we divide it by 3. So here N is 3 months. Okay. So we take a example of the sale for the last 10 periods and we try to find the forecast for the 4 month. So let us take an example. So you see here the sale for the 12 months. It is sale maybe in number of items or maybe in rupees or dollars or anything, number of packets like that. So the sale for the first month, it is 100 units. For second month, it is 80 unit. Third month, it is 90 unit, and so on. And for the 12 months, it is 110. So you see, it is a number which is based on the actual sales. So in some month, the sale is more. Here the sale is more, but here the sale is less. So it may be a particular seasonal trend. Okay. Now we want to calculate what will be the forecast for the month of April. So we say for last we will move 3 because and we have taken 3. So we will say it is 3 months moving average method. So we will count from the recent 1, 2, 3. So we will leave this forecast, and then for the forecast for the fourth month, that is April, it will be demand. So this is demand 100 plus 80. So this becomes a demand, 100 plus 80 plus 90. So if you see for last 3 months, so this divided by 3, so it is 90. Suppose I say you calculate the forecast based on the 6-month moving average. Okay, so what we'll do for the 6 month, we'll take last 6 months. Okay, and we will add the demand and divide it by 6. So I think it is clear. Okay, so now moving average might be used to extrapolate the next events if the following occurs. If there is no cyclic pattern and the system appears to be generating a series of values such that the last set of values provide the best estimates what will be the next value. So this is a example of a simple moving average. Now next method is the weighted moving average method. In this method, what we do, it is a way to make the forecast more responsive or more responsive in the most recent actual occurrence, that is demand, is to use the weighted moving average. So just like a moving average method, the most recent end period are used in forecasting. However, each period is assigned a weight between 0 and 1. So we'll say for this month, the weight is say 0.5. For the last month, it was for 0.4. And before that, it is 0.32, like this. So total weight, total sum of all the weights should not be more than 1. Okay. The highest value is assigned to the most recent period, and then the weights are assigned to the previous period in the decreasing order of the magnitude. So you got the point. Suppose we want to calculate the forecast for the month of June, and we say it is based on the last 3 months. So from June, we will go backward, May, April, and March. So we will give the more weightage to the May value, and then less to the April, and then less to the March. Okay, but in any case, these sum of all these weights should not be more than 1. Though, so we'll also see one example of this, so it will make you clear. So now the formula is weighted moving average is sigma of, that is summation, weight of the end period into demand for previous end period divided by total weight. So this method can track strong trends more accurately than the unweighted moving average. So it is a better method. And error analysis using the different values of n and the different ways has to be done in order to find the best value of n and the corresponding weight. So we will study also what is the how the errors are occurring and how they are calculated in the coming slides. Now we will take one example for the weighted moving average. So we have taken the month as 3, so 3 periods. So you see, it is a sale value is given for 12 months. Our aim is to find the forecast for the month of April. So what we will do, you see, we have assigned 0.2 weight to the first month, then 0.3 to the second month, and then 0.5 to the last month. So you see, we have assigned more weight to the recent one, and then less than this to the intermediate one, and the minimum weight to the last. So you have what you have done, 0.2 into 100, that is the sale value, plus 0.3 into 80, and then plus 0.5 into 90. So this way we calculate. Similarly, if you see this 89, how it has come? 89 has come based on this. Okay. So now for this thing, you see 80, 90 and 110. 80, 90 and 110 we have taken. For the next 100, 10, 100 and 110. So it is, you see 90, 110 and 100. 19, 110 and 100. So for this, you see 100, 110, 110 because, and 100 and 110. So this way we will see. If you see the last one, so it is 105. 105 is this. Then 90, then this, then 120. So this way we calculate the for all the months, and we calculate the demand and we apply the formula. Just you have seen here, the sigma of weight of n period into demand for the n period divided by the weights. So here weight will be, so sigma of weight will be 1. So that's why we will calculate this, and this will be the value 89. So you can find it also 100 into 0.2. It is you see 20. 100 into 0.2 it will be 20. 80 into this will be 24, and this will be 45. So 45 plus 20, 65 plus 24, it will give you 89. So this way you have calculated the forecast for the 4th month, 5th month. So if suppose directly you want to calculate for the 11th month, so what we will do, we will take this value, this value, this value, and we will calculate straight away. So because of this, if I say you calculate the forecast for the 15 months, so you have to make this data and you have to do this. So next method is the exponential smoothing. So this method, ES method also we say, it is like the WMA method, but it calculates the average demand. Okay. ES methodology remembers that the last estimate of the average value of the demand and combines it with the most recent observed value, the actual value, to form a new estimated average. So what we do, we define the things in terms of T period. So ES forecasts the demand for a given period T by combining the forecast of the previous period as T minus 1. So T is the most recent one and T minus 1 is the previous to that. The actual demand for the previous period will be T minus 1. So the actual demand for the previous period is given a weight of alpha or A, small a, and the forecast of the period which is given a weight of 1 minus alpha or 1 minus A. So the value of this alpha is between 0 and 1. Okay. It cannot be less than 0 or negative, or it cannot be more than 1. So let us try to see one example. So forecast for the T period will be the A, that is alpha, actual demand for T minus 1 plus 1 minus A, forecast for T minus 1. Suppose we want to have the forecast, say we are in the month of May now. So we want to have the forecast for the month of the June. Okay. So what we will do, we will have the value of A. We will have the actual demand of T minus 1. So T minus 1 is May, and 1 minus A, we will put that value, and this will be the actual demand, and this will be the forecast of the T minus 1. So instead of taking and going beyond the recent month, we take only the recent month. So by rearranging this equation, we can have this relation as forecast for the T period. It is easy to remember, is equal to forecast T minus 1 plus A into actual demand of the T minus 1 minus forecast of T minus 1. So it is the A or alpha varies between 0 and 1. So if we see the example which we have taken, the earlier one, that table. So ES method makes an forecast starting from period Q. The forecast for the first period is generally kept equal to the actual demand in that period in order to get the process started. So forecast for the all period 2 to 10 are given in the table. So suppose we have to calculate the forecast for the second month. So T minus 1 forecast for T minus 1, that is 1 into A or the alpha into A minus 1, that is the actual demand, minus forecast for the 1 month. So here you see it is 100, 0.2 value will be given, 100 minus 100. So it is 100. Similarly for 3, so forecast for the second period into A2 minus F2. So it is 100 for the second period, 0.2, 80 minus 100. So it is 96. So if you see here, so it is calculated that way. How it has come 100? So it is 100 plus 0.2. This is the sale we have taken. 0.2 is value given, and the forecast was 100 minus demand was also 100. Similarly here you see 96 how it has come. So forecast for the T minus 1. So T minus 1 will be 100 here. So this will be 100, 0.2, and this is 80. Okay, 80 minus 100. So this value is not missing here. It is 80. Okay. Now if you see for the third month, so that third month what they have done, it is forecast value is this 96 plus 0.2, 90 minus 96. So I think you get this point. So this way we apply the exponential smoothing method. So these are the three methods. They are very widely used. So now it is a simpler method. It requires fewer calculation than WMA because you have to do only the very less number of calculation. Suppose you want to calculate for the month of 11th straight away. So you will be using the data of only 10th month. Okay. ES needs only the 3 pieces of data. Also, it can be more effective because only one weight, alpha or A, is used for the stable system where there is at the most a minimum amount of the random fluctuation. So larger the value of alpha are used for changing and evolving system where the much reliance is placed on the last observation. So for the new product, if you are going for forecast, so alpha is very important. So new product, as they move through their life cycle stages, they start with a larger value of alpha, which gradually diminishes as the product enters into the maturity stage. So it is like that only. जो मोबाइल और जो प्रोडक्ट लास्ट ईयर बिक रहा था, सो इट हैज बीन सोल्ड एंड इट हैज अचीव सर्टेन मैच्योरिटी, सो डाटा of sale for that particular item will not matter much. So in order to use the time series other causal methods, we have to find what do you mean by trend analysis. So if the time is taken and on the x-axis and demand and forecast is on this, so if we plot this demand and forecast both way, so this is a our forecast and this is a demand. So you see more or less it follows a trend. So that can be a line, can be, or a curve can be fitted, a line can be fitted in this curve. You see there are variations, okay, in the demand. So you can see more or less it will be like this according to the forecast. Okay. So it can be linear. This trend can be linear as we have seen, or it can be parabolic, non-linear. So parabolic trend, and this is life cycle trend. So the sale is increasing and it achieves some value and then decrease down. Okay. Then it can be exponential curve. So when you introduce initially the sale is very high, then it goes on decreasing, and this is again a growth curve for a stable product. So these are the trends, some of the linear, non-linear trends which are being used. Now, in order to draw the trend equation, so we must know the equation of a simple line, that is a straight line, which shows a linear trend. So it has a form of ft into is equal to a plus bt, where ft is the forecast for the t period, okay, for the month for which you want to make the forecast, and a and b, they are the coefficients of the line. So a value of the ft at t is equal to 0, which is the y-intercept, and b is the slope. This you all know, y is equal to mx plus c. So like that, and t is the specified number of time period from t to 0. The coefficient of the line a and b are based on the, this we can calculate by this formula which is mentioned below. So you see a is equal to sigma of all y's minus b of sigma t upon n. So or y bar minus bt. Okay. So you can either solve like this. A is equal to ft minus bt. Okay. Ft minus bt. So it can be done for the single step. And if it is for n, so you can use this sigma of all y's and sigma. So it is a curve between y and t. Okay. Now similarly, in order to calculate b, we must calculate all these sigmas. So we know the number of periods, we know that t, and we'll make the product and we'll take the sigma. Then we will have all the sigma of time period, all the sigma of the demand, and we'll have the t square and sigma t whole square. So this way we can calculate. So n is the number of period, y is the value of the time series. So you see here the time series, the parameters which we want to calculate is on the y-axis, and it is independent, and it is dependent upon this, and this parameter which is drawn on the x-axis, it will be independent. So a straight line can be drawn. The slope of the straight line is delta y upon delta t. Okay. So this can be calculated. So everybody is aware of this. So now causal method, which are also known as regression methods. So in some of the books, causal methods are also written, but causal method is causal is the most appropriate word to be used. So causal method use the data from the sources other than the series being predicted. So if y is a phenomena to be forecast, and x1, x2, xn are the n variables which are related to y, then a causal model is one in which the forecast for the y is a function of x. So you see, this is the forecast we have to calculate. It is a function of x1, x2, x3, and so on. Econometrical models are causal models in which the relationship between y and x1, x2 is linear. So we can have some other trend also. So if it is non-linear, then we can have this kind of relation. That means y is equal to a0 plus a1 into x1 plus a2 into x2 plus a3 into x3 and so on. And the last term will be an into x1, where a1, a2, a3 up to an are the constant. So this gives a model, mathematical model, by which you can establish a relation between y and x. So we also call it as a predictor variable. So variables that can be used to predict the values of the variable of interest. So they are known as a predictable or predictor variables. Regression technique is a technique for fitting a line to the set of points, and least square method is a method in which a line minimizes the sum of the squared vertical deviation around that line. So just now we have seen this. So this is least square method only, by which we fit the line by trend. Okay. So I'll put some problems in the tutorial so that you try. So first is a simple linear regression. It is the simplest and the most widely used form of the regression, which involves a linear relationship between the two variables. The object in the linear regression is to obtain an equation of a straight line which will minimize the sum of the squared vertical deviation of the data from the line. That is the least square criterion. This least square line has equation. So if you go back to the trend equation, you see. So this is a deviation. Okay. So this is the deviation. The more closer this deviation is, that means the least deviation is there. So most close trend will be there. That means this curve will follow a straight line. Okay. So this is a method which we use to fit the data. Okay. Now the regression analysis, how we see whether there is a correlation or whether a regression model can be made or not. So this method is useful for establishing the relationship between two sets of numbers that are in time series. So you remember I used to discuss for seasonal trend. So like that, you see, if a rainy season is there, so the demand of the umbrellas will go up, or demand of the rainy shoes will go up, or the demand of the repair of vehicles will go up. If the winter is onset, then the woolen clothes will go on. Okay. If there is a pandemic, then the cost of medicine or the demand of medicine will change. So that means the things are correlated in each other. So for example, when a series of Y numbers, as such as monthly sale of camera over a period of time, is causally connected with the series of X numbers. X number may be the monthly advertising budget. Suppose you have increased the more budget on the advertisement, that is X. So because of that, more awareness is spread around in the people, and the sale of camera, which is Y, will be increasing. Okay. So it is beneficial to establish a relationship between X and Y in order to forecast. Okay. So we try to find whether a relationship is there. Okay. So that means a correlation is there, and regression will tell how much closeness is there. Okay. So regression and correlation, these are two different words. The first assumption is that generally which is made in the regression analysis, is that the relationship between correlated pairs is linear. It is easiest assumption to check. However, if non-linear relations are hypothesized, they are strong. We assume that there is no relation. So the model developed will be more complex, and we will try to achieve a more realistic model. So, but in this model will be more complex. However, this regression analysis will be very much, close to the actual scene. In the regression analysis, X is independent variable and Y is dependent variable. So this I have just talked. Now regression so YC is A plus BC. You see? So YC is the predictive or dependent variable, and X is the predicator or the predictor, which is independent variable. B is the slope of the line, this line, and A is the value of YC when X is 0. So when X is 0 here, so this is the value of A. Okay. Now, if you plot the data, so at time t, this is our uh, predicted value. This is a value, this is a value, this is a value. So if we plot the data, you see, we have a line which is, exists around these points. Okay. So a straight line is fitted to a set of the sample points. The coefficient of A and B, they can be calculated in the similar way I have just told. The correlation means the strength and direction of the relationship between two. So regression and correlation, they are different. Okay. So correlation can range from point 0 to 1 or 1 to 1. So that is -1 to 1. So you can say a correlation of 1 indicates that the change in one variable are always matched with the change in the another. A correlation of 1 indicates that increase in one variable are matched by the decreasing in other. And a correlation close to 0 indicates that the little relationship exists between the two variables. So we can first establish a relationship and then we can start that particular business. So the correlation between the two variables x and y can be found out using this relation where n is the number of periods. So sigma xy minus sigma x into sigma y under the root of n into sigma x square minus sigma x whole square and to sigma y whole square minus sigma y whole square. The square of the correlation coefficient r square, it provides a measure of the percentage of variability in the value of y, which is explained by the independent variable. Okay. So this r square is very important. So it represents the measure of percentage of variability in the value of y. The possible values of r square ranges from 0 to 1. The closer r square is to 1, the greater will be the percentage of the explained variation. So it is better if it is close to 1 or if it is 1. A high value of r square, say 0.8 or more, 0.9, 0.85, 0.95, would indicate that the independent variable is a good predictor of the value of the dependent variable. Okay. So a low value, say 0.25 or less, would indicate a poor predictor. And a value between 0.5 and 0.8 will be a moderate predictor. And if it is more than 0.8 to 1, so it is a very good predictor. Okay. So let us take an example. This table given for the 10 observations are there. So independent variable is x and dependent variable is y. Okay. So some values are given. So if you see here, at 10, you see at 10, this value is 400. Okay. This value is at 400. Then again at 12, this value is 600. So this value is 600. Okay. And again at 3, that is 11. So 11 somewhere here. So it is 700. So it is 700 plotted like this. Then again at 5 or at 4 at 9, 4 it is 9. So at 4 it is 9. So 9 is somewhere here. Okay. So it is here. This 9 is 500. Okay. Then again fifth value is at 10. So 10 is 800. So 800 again. So this way we have plotted. So this is very scattered, but we have to fit this line. So this line, the best line which will fit 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 4 points are there, or 1, 2, 3 points are there. So this is a demand and this is a forecast. So you see, so demand was so much, it is high, but our forecast was so much. So there is so much of variation. But this value is very near to the forecast. So that means it's a good forecast. So this value should be minimum. Okay. So if you see coefficient of correlation and the determination. So independent variable and the dependent variable. So 5, 10, 25, and we have on this side. So scatter diagram with high coefficient of correlation because the points are very close to each other. Okay. So that means there is a good correlation exists between this. So now this scatter diagram with the low coefficient of correlation because they are far away. Okay. So there is very low coefficient of correlation. Now the most important concept is how accurate is your forecast. You have the demand and you have adopted so many methods, you have learned so many methods, but if we are not able to check the forecast, that forecast cannot be converted into a good demand. So let us try to understand what is meant by the forecast accuracy. So accuracy and the control or forecast is important aspect in forecasting so that we can minimize the errors which we have just seen. But in actual, the complex nature of the real-time situation or real-time work problems, it is almost, impossible or it is rather very difficult to correctly predict the future value of those variable on a regular basis. So there are so many things we have seen. There is a cyclic variation, there is a random demand, there is a non-randomness, there is a seasonal, this thing is there. Okay. So, and no trend is existing. So many parameters are there, owing to which it is difficult, rather very difficult to make a accurate forecast. But how accurate it is, we can always measure the error. So it is very rare to get a 100% accurate forecast. A good forecast technique is one in which we can minimize the errors. So first is the first parameter we use is known as the forecast error. We denote this with E subscript T. So this forecast error, it is the difference between the value that occurs, that means actual, and the value that was predicted for a given period of time. So forecast error is actual minus the forecast. So where T is any time period given. So positive error results when forecast is too low. Okay. When the forecast is very less, but the actual demand has come. Okay. So the forecast error will be very low. When negative errors, when the forecast is too high. Okay. You have predicted that you have made a forecast that 100 items will be sold in the month of April, but the actual was only 30. So 30 minus 100 will be negative. Okay. So negative error and the positive error. So this is one thing. Second is there are three other parameters which are used. The first one is MAD. We also call it as mean absolute deviation. The average absolute forecast error, that means we take the actual minus forecast and we take the mod of this. So if actual is say 80 and forecast was 100, so it is how much? Minus 20. But the mod of this will be 20. So you have all the errors, you take the mod and then you divide it by n. So that will give you the mean absolute deviation. Now second is the mean squared error. So this is calculated by the sigma of actual t minus forecast t, their square, and then the summation of all those, and then divided by n minus 1. Third time is MAP. That is a mean absolute percentage error. So MAP is nothing but the mod of actual minus forecast upon actual into 100 and sigma divided by n. Okay. So this way we can uh, make the forecast, we can check their correctness, and we can minimize the error. Let us take one example that will make all these things clear. So it says that data is given for the 8 periods. This is the actual demand. This is a forecasted one. Okay. So it says the compute MAD MSC map for the following data showing the actual and forecasted value of the accounts service. Okay. Some data is given. So you see the error will be 217 minus 215. So 2, but here it is negative. Okay. Similarly, 16 minus 15 positive, 10 minus 14 is negative. 13 minus this is 2. It is again positive. It is again negative. It is negative. So if you do the sigma, so you see you add the all plus and you minus all minus. So 2 plus 1, 3, 2, 5, 5, 10. 10 out of 10, how much you have to find out? 4 plus 3, 7, 7, 8, 12. So minus 12 and plus 10. So it give you minus 2. So mod of this error, it will be individual mod you have to take. 2 will be 2, but 3 mod of minus 3 will be 3. So like that you make all the values possible. So now this mod error, you sum it up. So it will be 22. Now error square. So error square from here, 2 to the 4, 3, 3 the 9. So like that you calculate all the errors and you take the summation. And now you divide error divided by actual. So error, the mod of error divided by actual. So mod of that. So error is how much? 2 divided by actual. Error is 2 divided by actual. Actual is 217. Okay. So this you have divided the mod error minus divided by actual. So mod error is 2 divided by the actual, and you will get into multiplied by this 100. Okay. So like that. So you take the sum, it is 10.26. So this is a way you see he has calculated the MAD sigma of all the errors. It is 22. 22 divided by n, so it is 2.75. Then MSC. MSC was sigma of E square. So it is how much? 76 here. Okay. Divided by n minus 1. So n is 8, so it is this. And similarly, he has calculated MAP. So MAP is n 100 mod of E divided by actual. So it is 1.28%. So from the computational point of view, the difference between MAD is that the MAD weighs all the errors evenly. Mean square error weights error according to their squared value, and MAP weights according to the relative error. So this shows the relative error, it shows the squared value, and this shows the difference between measured and the actual. So thank you so much. I think you can have the a note to my earlier presentation also, in which we have discussed all these methods in detail. So that will cover in totality what exactly is sales forecasting it, what are the methods, how one method is comparable to other. So what are the limitations of each? So I stop my discussion over here. So thanks for a patience.